The silence of the laboratory was a physical presence, a sterile void broken only by the subsonic hum of the ship's core and a whisper of recycled air. It was a temple to efficiency, a place where life was a variable to be measured, not experienced. Chief Exosurgeon Hestian regarded the specimen on the dissection slab. A product of the pacification campaign on the mudball below. Designation, Contaminant Alpha. A biological mess, but a fascinating one. Initiate recording. Hestian's voice was a calibrated baritone, designed to complement the ambient frequencies. Subject is a baseline human male. Our objective is to document the systemic cascade failure inherent in its crude design when deprived of nutrient intake. His apprentice, Alkaline Peer, stood at a regulation distance, his silver tunic impeccable. His gaze, however, betrayed a flicker of profound distaste, fixated on the specimen's excessive facial hair. Its external form is a monument to redundancy, Chief Exosurgeon, Peer stated, his voice crisp. The bilateral symmetry, the inefficient limb structure, it is aesthetically offensive. Superficialities, Apprentice, Hestian chided, selecting a plasma scalpel. Its energy edge was a thread of contained lightning. The true horror is internal. A testament to evolutionary desperation. With a gesture honed over centuries, Hestian traced a line from the sternum to the navel. The air, once scentless, was suddenly violated by a wet, coppery odor. Peer's olfactory vent snapped shut in a reflexive spasm. Our digestive core is a marvel of zero-waste conversion, Hestian lectured, his pride evident. This is a chemical sludge vat. A churning, acidic cauldron of biological noise. He deactivated the scalpel. The soft click was unnaturally loud. His gloved fingers, designed for microsurgery, plunged into the abdominal cavity and closed around a slick, coiled tube. It made a soft, wet sound as he lifted it, a defiant echo of life in a place designed for its absence. The primary absorption organ, he announced, holding up a loop of small intestine. A needlessly convoluted and moist apparatus. He expected a modest, self-contained length. A few feet of tissue. Instead, the organ spooled out from the body like a runaway cable. A pinkish rope that he began to lay on a sterile tray. 1 loop. 2. 3. The tidy coil became a mound, then a heap. His elegant arrangement collapsed into disarray. Peer took an involuntary step back, his mask of academic interest shattered, replaced by raw horror. The volume was obscene. Anatomically gratuitous. Hestian's serene composure fractured. His movements turned jerky, agitated. He tugged, and another yard of the organ emerged, slick and endless. The pile spilled onto the pristine floor with a soft, wet slap. This wasn't biology. It was an insult. A violation of every principle of elegant, minimalist design. He stared at the obscene heap, then back at the half-empty cavity. The foundation of his understanding shuddered. This creature contained more intestine than was strictly decent. His voice, when it came, was a low, baffled hiss, slicing through the sterile air. Why is it so long? Yes? Consciousness returned to Sergeant Maria Cruz not as a light, but as a sledgehammer. A throbbing ache in her skull, the metallic aftertaste of a stun blast, and a cold that seeped from the seamless metallic floor into her bones. A quick, ingrained systems check. Limbs, functional. Major bleeding, negative. Vision, a swirling grey vortex slowly resolving into a perfect, featureless cube. No seams, no bolts. A disorienting void of sterile perfection, punctuated only by tiny flaws, a waste disposal slit, a humming ventilation grate, a single condensation slick pipe, and the faint, almost invisible hairline of a service panel. A groan echoed her own discomfort. My head's ringing like a faulty alarm bell, rumbled Corporal Gibson, pushing his massive frame up from the floor. His hand went to his stomach. And the cafeteria's closed. I'm starving. Vitals are stable, reported Specialist Anya, already sitting upright, fingers on her own pulse point. Her tone was detached, clinical. Concussive trauma consistent with their energy weapons. Prognosis, functional, pending caloric intake. A fat chance of that, Gibson grumbled, his stomach issuing a wet, gurgling roar that echoed in the silent chamber, a profoundly biological sound in the technological tomb. A section of the wall wavered, resolving into the hologram of an aileron. Tall, willowy, its silver uniform blending into the grey. Its smooth, ovoid head tilted without any discernible reason. "You are subjects in a study of Terran deprivation tolerance," a translated voice stated, "cold and sterile. Your biological functions will be monitored as they cease. No sustenance will be provided. This is the Starvation Doctrine, proven 100% effective." "Enlightenment?" Maria muttered. "You mean you starved them all to death?" The hologram, Administrator 7, rippled slightly. "Your species' inefficient metabolic rate is documented. Your complete systemic failure is expected within 3 standard days. We will observe your decline with scientific interest." The hologram vanished. The finality of the sentence settled over them, cold, heavy weight. "Well," Gibson said, heaving himself to his feet. "Guess I'm hungry. Always figured it'd be at an all-you-can-eat, though." Maria was already moving, her engineer's eyes scanning not a prison, but a system. "They made 2 mistakes," she said, her voice hard. "Only 2?" Anya asked. "I can list 5, starting with their interior decorator." "First," Maria said, her gaze locking onto the ventilation grate, from which a faint, damp, earthy smell emanated. "They put us in an old part of the ship, near where they dragged the wreckage." "And the second?" Gibson asked. Maria's smile was a cold, sharp thing. "They told us we had 3 days to live. The first 24 hours were a grinding lesson in the anatomy of hunger. It was a hollowing ache that migrated from the stomach to the mind, slowing thought to a viscous crawl." Gibson's boisterous energy faded into sluggish pacing, his stories of past meals growing fainter. While he paced, Maria hunted. Her mind, trained to dismantle complex systems, now worked on their cell. She tapped walls, listened for hollow points, her fingers tracing the condensation on the cold pipe. It was there that Anya found her project. A dark, velvety patch of mold, no larger than her thumbnail, thriving in the perpetual damp. "Fascinating," she murmured, scraping a sample. "A terrestrial fungus. A stowaway on our gear. Gibson's boot, most likely. It's found a perfect microclimate. Can we eat it?" Gibson asked, his voice a croak. He watched the patch with the intensity of a predator. "It is a protein-rich mycelial network," Anya confirmed, her tone analytical. "The flavor profile suggests damp earth and ammonia. But it is, technically, nutritious." "I'll take it," Gibson said, without hesitation. Their true breakthrough was a skittering miracle of tenacity. A sound from the vent, and then a multi-legged creature with tough plating scuttled out, a vermin from the plastic colony they'd been captured on. Ugly. Probably diseased. A piece of home. Gibson moved. Sluggishness vanished in a burst of shocking speed. His hand slammed down. A faint crunch. He lifted his palm, revealing the stunned creature. A feral grin spread across his face. Appetizer. Now, they needed fire. Maria's eyes found the service panel. It took Gibson's strength to pry a corner loose. Inside, 2 thick, insulated power conduits ran in parallel. High voltage. "New plan," Maria said, her voice low with focus. "We're making a stove." She had Gibson strip a section of insulation, exposing the gleaming metal. "The breakers are old. We'll have 30 seconds before they trip." Gibson sharpened a shard of metal from his bunk frame. "So we cook fast." With steady hands, Maria wedged the metal between the positive and negative leads. For a second, nothing. Then the lights dimmed. An angry hum filled the cell. The metal shard began to glow, dull red, then cherry, then a searing, brilliant orange. "Now." Gibson thrust the impaled creature against the glowing metal. A sharp sizzle, a pop, and a thin curl of smoke carried a strange, undeniable scent into the sterile air, cooking meat. They worked in frantic silence, searing the flesh against the crude element. After 20 eternal seconds, the hum cut out with a loud clunk. The glow faded. They were left with a piece of charred, probably raw meat no bigger than a fist. It was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. In his distant lab, Hestian stared at a new data stream, an atmospheric alert from their sector. Elevated CO2, trace methane, organic particulates. He didn't dismiss it. A true scientist catalogued all data. Fascinating, he murmured, making a new log entry. The Terran decomposition process is unexpectedly volatile. They are off-gassing complex organic compounds. The very air is evidence of their decay. He filed the report under terminal stage biomarkers and turned back to the biofeeds, eager to watch the elegant process of starvation unfold. 3 days passed. Then 5. Then 7. The official timeline for their demise came and went, unmarked. Inside the cell, a grim routine was established. The Skitterat buffet had closed. Their diet now consisted of 2 staples, pike cheese, the mold Anya cultivated, and wool, the fibrous insulation Gibson tore from the conduit with raw, bleeding hands. It was chalky, dry, and scraped their throats, but it was fuel. Gibson, gaunt but wired, consumed it with a grim determination. Tastes like disper, he grunted. But it's a very stale biscuit. Their cell was no longer a sterile prison. It was a den. The air hung thick with the smells of ozone, damp organic matter, and something uniquely their own. A small pile of clean-picked bones sat in one corner. Hestian reviewed the data for the 10th time, his fingers drumming a frantic rhythm. The subjects refused to decline. Their biosigns were stable. Their waste output was consistent, a biological impossibility. A priority communication chimed. The sigil of a high command administrator filled his display. Exosurgeon. Your study is in its 8th cycle. The doctrine predicted failure by cycle 3. Explain. Hestian felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. This was an audit. The subjects are anomalously resilient, High Administrator. Their biology is more complex than. Complexity is inefficiency, the cold voice interrupted. Provide a definitive result. Reconfirm the doctrine, or your project and its personnel will be re-evaluated for utility. The transmission cut. Hestian was no longer a scientist. He was a functionary on the verge of being declared redundant. He needed a result. He needed them to die. Now. During the next observation cycle, Gibson gave a performance. He collapsed, convulsed, and, with a mouthful of mold paste, foamed green-black froth onto the pristine floor. In his lab, Hestian watched, his heart pounding. The terminal seizure. His career was saved. Get in there, he screamed to the guards outside the cell. Override quarantine. I need that data. The guards, bound by hierarchy, manually unlocked the door. The sterile seal broke with a hiss. They stepped into the thick, foul air. One knelt beside the convulsing Gibson, scanner in hand. The other stood watch. Gibson's seizure stopped. He exploded upwards, his hand snapping the kneeling guard's arm, his other wrapping around its torso in a bone-crunching embrace. Simultaneously, Maria and Anya launched themselves at the second guard. The fight was a brutal, ugly symphony of chaos. The Ailrans were faster, stronger. But after 30 seconds, a subtle tremor appeared in their limbs. Their energy, designed for quick, decisive victories, was depleting. The humans, bruised and battered, fought with a grinding, relentless momentum. They didn't have the power, but they had the endurance. It was over in a minute. The cell was silent, save for the humans' ragged breaths. They were armed. They were free. Hestian watched the monitors, a wave of cold terror washing over him. The data streams flatlined. Containment failed, he shrieked into the comm, the Terran subjects are loose. They are ambulatory bioreactors. A walking plague. His frantic gaze fell on the secondary screen, the rotating 3D model of the human intestine from the autopsy. It mocked him. And in a moment of horrifying, soul-shattering clarity, he understood. The gut biome. The consumption of waste. Their endurance. It wasn't inefficiency. It was resilience. A system designed to eat the rocks and the dirt and the garbage and turn it into fuel for a machine that simply refused to die. He whispered, the truth cauterizing his arrogance. It's not a flaw. It's the whole point. Fighting through the ship's underbelly, they found a hangar. Docked there was a squat, ugly freighter, the * debris collector 9-star. It was beautiful. Maria slid into the pilot's seat and hit the power. Lights flickered on. A diagnostic flashed, biorefined power core depleted. Pure-grade fuel required. They were trapped. The sound of magnetic boots echoed down the corridor. Maria didn't see a dead end. She saw a faulty input. She ripped open a maintenance panel, revealing the ship's organic waste reclamation unit, its garbage disposal. Her fingers traced its power conduit straight to the engine's ignition capacitor. A manic grin spread across her face. Their systems are designed for a clean, musical note of energy. We're going to hit it with the electrical equivalent of a mudslide. She turned to her crew. Anna, Gibson, find me every bit of organic crap you can find. Now. What followed was a symphony of desperation. Gibson became a demolition crew, tearing up flammable insulation, smashing crates of nutrient paste, kicking over bins of greasy rags. Anna scraped algae from tanks, gathered strange molds. They dumped it all into the reclamation hopper, insulation, fungi, skitter carcasses, the bodies of the guards. The door. Gibson yelled, bracing against the buckling hangar entrance. Maria pried open the ship's power junction, revealing pure, gleaming bus bars. She clamped the raw, rerouted cables from the garbage unit onto them. Sparks flew. The capacitor began to whine, glowing a dangerous cherry red. The hangar door buckled. A silver arm reached through. Now or never, Gibson bellowed. Maria slammed the jury-rigged lever home. The * debris collector 9 * lurched to life with a sound like a cosmic belch. Thick, foul smoke poured from its engines. It shuddered violently, then shot forward, smashing through its docking clamps. Maria wrestled the controls, aiming the ship's blunt nose at the hangar doors. They burst outward in a shower of metal, just as a sleek patrol cutter, the inevitability of truth, moved to block their path. It was a tactic so crude it wasn't in any simulator. A bar fight. Hold on to something. Maria screamed. The impact was a deafening shriek of tearing metal. The freighter's reinforced prow plowed deep into the cutter's slender frame, creating a jagged, sparking breach between the two vessels. The fight for the cutter was another brutal, close-quarters affair. The humans, covered in grime, stormed the ship like vengeful ghosts. They fought their way to the bridge, a whirlwind of desperate violence, and sealed the doors behind them. Standing victorious on the bridge of the inevitability of truth, they breathed. The ship was silent but for the hum of superior technology and their own ragged breaths. The view screen showed the infinite blackness of space. Gibson immediately found the nutrient paste dispenser. A perfect cylinder of beige paste extruded. He tasted it. His face contorted in profound disgust. Tastes like sad plastic, he announced, spitting it onto the pristine floor. He reached into his pouch and pulled out a saved, blackened skitterrat leg. He took a loud, crunchy bite. He chewed thoughtfully, his eyes half closed in bliss. Yeah, he said to no one in particular, holding up the rat leg. Need salt. Leaning against the captain's chair, Maria let out a choked, ragged sound that was almost a laugh. A genuine smile touched her grimy face. She looked at her crew, at the controls of their new ship, and began plotting a course for home. They left behind a baffled, terrified enemy who had just received a very messy, very overdue lesson in the sublime, indomitable inefficiency of life.